So Shweta, hello. So okay, I thought I heard an echo, so I think that's not happening, right? So it's
Is it okay now, my voice?
yeah, it's okay. It's
Great.
okay.
So, hello everyone, good evening, and welcome to Chit Chat with Shweta. Um, Before we start, I'm really excited, especially for this episode, because I have done a lot of episodes on other social media, but for Chit Chat with Shweta, this is my first episode which I'm doing on LinkedIn with my LinkedIn family, and I have been getting so many requests from the people here, to do it over here. So this is finally I have taken the plunge and I'm doing it on LinkedIn. So this episode is really very special. And to make it even more special and interesting is our today's guest, Hardy Alexander. Now, we will definitely listen to him, his story. But before we listen from his story, what it is, I would like to introduce him briefly. Hardy is on a personal mission to inspire more people to their success and growth. I'm sure today a lot of us are going to get inspired by you. So, yes, so that's his personal mission. He's a seasoned professional who combines his industry experience of over 27 years with the role as a leadership and sales coach. His experience with conducting learning sessions spans across hierarchy, from first time managers to C level executives across industries, manufacturing, service industry, FMCG, banks, information technology, and also across countries, Pan India, Middle East, Europe, APAC, and Africa. So basically, he is all over for sure. He's a metallurgical engineer from NIT Rourkela and completed his master's in marketing management from NIMS Mumbai. Hardy is a writer and a nature lover too. So, welcome, Hardy, to our show, Chit Chat with Shweta. It's a pleasure having you here with us.
Yes. So thank you so much. Shweta, really appreciate being here. I actually, feel a deep sense of gratitude and humility to be here. So I must say thank you for inviting me here. I'm absolutely excited to kind of share my story, my experiences, particularly in the space of dealing with the challenges that we have in terms of facing up to the new normal. So yeah, absolutely excited.
The pleasure is completely ours to have you on the show. So, as you said that we basically want to listen to your story. You know, what is your story? Because, you said you are on a mission to inspire people. What is your inspiration?
Sure.
Why this, because everyone has our own stories, our own journey. So let's hear it from you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shweta. So, since it is about my story, please allow me to kind of give you a little bit of background and detail. And apologies if I kind of bore you a bit, but I think it's all, when I really look back, and I'm sure most of us do, when I look back, I realize that everything that has happened in my life, every instance, every experience, good or bad, has actually built me and prepared for me for who I am right now. And so that's why it's absolutely important to kind of share a little bit of background here. I'm saying this with a deep sense of gratitude and humility, because when I reflect back, everything that has happened in my life has really shaped me to be who I am. So back in 2010, as general manager of a startup company, I was actually staring at a career crisis and was seriously contemplating what I really wanted to do in life. I was challenging myself to say what would give me more meaning and fulfillment. So one thought that really helped me take that plunge. And I may say that, you may find it amusing, but the self-talk that was happening in my mind was, on your deathbed, what will you regret not having done? And so when I say that, I'm also saying that because I had many options in front of me, but there was one where I didn't have much of an experience and exposure, but I believed that that's my calling, and that is what I really wanted to do. And hence that, kind of really a thought that pushed me over the edge to really take my plunge. But without any shame, I must admit that while growing up, I didn't have a clear sense of purpose. And I simply studied hard to do well in class because that was my background. My mother used to constantly motivate me to, keep doing well and do well. And so that was the message. So born and brought up in a small township called Rourkela. I don't know how many of you have heard about this township, which is now a smart city in Orissa. I remember being constantly told, not just by my mother, but a lot of people around me, that there are three categories of people: engineers, doctors, and the good for nothings. And I must admit that I became an engineer and escaped being tagged as a good for nothing. When I look back, it sounds amusing, but it's so very important that I did what I did. So for my engineering, I again took up metallurgy as a stream, not because I had a passion for organic chemistry. In fact, I was so weak in chemistry that I was literally shocked when I chose metallurgy. But I chose it because my mother wanted me to stay back in Rourkela and avoid going away and live in a hostel. And I remember this was way back in 1980, late 1980s, and there used to be instances of severe ragging in hostels, including the, in the NIT that I finally joined in Rourkela. So when I graduated among the top list, I was keen to look for jobs in the field of research and development, because by that time I was very fascinated with this. I was doing well, and some of my professors were amazing. So I really fell in love with this subject called metallurgy, and so I wanted to then get into this field of research and development, work with the blast furnaces and all that. However, during my campus recruitment, my interviewer put me into the sales function, saying, "Hardy, your communication skills are awesome." And with that, my career as a metallurgist came to a dramatic end. Also, because the company that was hiring me was one of the best companies that could come for campus. And as a person who had not much clue of what I wanted to really do in life, how could I say no to such a great offer? So I became a sales professional then. However, when I look back today, Shweta, I realized that being in sales gave me the right exposure to manage my own business today. So in 2010, while facing the career crisis, I actually applied for a lot of training related jobs, because I never even thought of being an entrepreneur. I mean, there are no entrepreneurs in my family, and that was the last thought ever. But nobody hires you for a passion, right? Because everyone looks for experience as a trainer. And I only had 1 year of experience as a sales facilitator in Federal Express. But that is when I told you that self-talk, to take that plunge, to do something which I will not regret on my deathbed. And that when no one else was giving me an opportunity to really plunge and start my own company called Triune Global in January 2011. And ever since, I must admit, I am living my passion to make a difference in the lives of the people around me. So, Shweta, it's been an amazing, I don't know how interesting this story is,
It is
but
definitely
when I
very
look
interesting.
back, when I look back, I realize that I couldn't have asked for anything more. And, it has been an amazing journey so far.
Wow. Your story itself, inspires us from finding your purpose, your life purpose, and then from sales to taking the plunge and doing what you really wanted to do, it's actually very difficult. Most of us do not have that courage. I have, a lot of questions and things to ask you right now, because when you were telling your story, a lot of things were going on in my mind. So I'll not miss this opportunity to ask them. But before we go into that, right now we are dealing with pandemic and everyone is talking about this new challenge and this new normal. But is a challenge supposed to be the actual normal? Like that's how I look at it, that every day is a challenge, every situation is a challenge. That's supposed to be the normal thing. What is life without challenges and struggles? So how would you, look at it, and what's your take on this?
So Shweta, I really appreciate you bringing in that concept and setting that context, saying every day is a challenge, and we are all dealing with challenges, and somewhere we got into that false sense of of normal, of facing that, so standing up to these challenges and going on with whatever we were doing as a so-called false sense of normal. Because honestly, if you ask me, the pandemic actually challenged this false sense of normal for all of us. So, I guess before the lockdown started in March, we were all living in that false presumption that, these daily challenges, the daily struggles and all of that, you're getting into that state of comfort, and that's normal. The comfort of maybe passing each day at a maddening pace, facing up to the daily challenges, predictable outcomes, all of that, in my opinion, was being called as the normal. And in my opinion, Shweta, the pandemic simply put a break to the so-called predictable lives we were living. Yeah, and challenged us to actually, if you really look at it, it has forced us to take a pause. It has forced us to ponder a while on what we are doing with our lives. I'm not too sure how many of us have consciously done that over the last 7 to 8 months that we are in this state of pandemic. But personally, for me, it has really kind of challenged me and forced me to pause and ponder. So while I'm not an expert to predict what lies ahead, Shweta, and while I don't know what the so-called new normal will look like, in my opinion, the pandemic is just trying to teach us to stay alert. It is teaching us to respond to the dramatic changes in the lives that we have with a deeper sense of purpose. I'm saying not that we did not do it earlier, but I think we were just going through the motions. We were just going through, as if, our lives are on. There's nothing that will stop us, kind of a thing. But this pandemic has really forced us to teach us to stay alert and respond, with a deeper sense of purpose. So, for example, you will agree there are a lot of things that we considered impossible, like work from home. In fact, I remember a friend of mine who works in a very sensitive kind of an industry, where I was told that they cannot afford to even connect to their system from home, because they had to be in the office network to really access certain confidential data. But overnight, the organization realized that if they have to continue to work, their employees will have to connect from home. And so now they have set methods in place, to really manage work from home. And so is a lot of other industries, colleges, schools. They just prove themselves wrong, right? And so to me, Shweta, the new normal, I wouldn't call it a new normal, but it will be a state where the human race is very compassionate, because I think that's what the last 7 to 8 months have really kind of also shown: a need for compassion. A lot of stories that we hear, a need for compassion, a need to be more alert, need to be leading very purposeful lives and adapting to change faster. More important, are you ready to challenge status quo? Because in my opinion, prior to the lockdown, people were very comfortable with the so-called status quo. And so this pandemic has actually taught us, you can never rest. And if you're resting, God save you. So be alert, be challenging, be ready to adapt, be compassionate, be compassionate. I think that's what in my mind is looking like, the new normal which lies ahead of us.
I think you have very rightly put, before pandemic, we were very much into our comfort zone. And that is why suddenly we all have shaken up because we were so used to, that predictability, as you said it. And very interesting that thing which you pointed out is, before this, we were not ready to explore options. As you said, the friend working in the industry, and they never thought that work from home could be an option for them. So pandemic has actually made us look for other options, and that brings me to my next question, which you had also mentioned right at the beginning. That what about our life purpose? What about the vision? What I have seen and felt is most of the people do not even have a vision in their life, and if they don't have a vision, you don't take action, or you're aimless, directionless. So how does one develop that? Is it something which has to be done very consciously at an early stage? As parents, we are supposed to inculcate it in our children. How does one have a proper vision in their life?
Sure. Shweta, and I think that's a very, very, very important question for all of us to ponder. If you ask me, it took me 18 years of corporate life and a crisis, a situation in my career. When I say crisis, a realization that I was dragging my feet to work and that I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing, and that sense of that sense of restlessness to say that it's okay to continue in this state because I was getting my money. I mean, I was doing well in my career, everything was going fine, but I was uncomfortable, right? So I had the option to continue with that sense of discomfort, or to say, have I even tried doing something else which I really want to do? So for me, honestly, it took me 18 years. And I'm thankful that it happened, because the last 10 years, while I may or may not be earning as much as many of my colleagues in the corporate world or business world are doing, but I'm so content, I'm so happy doing what I'm doing. So that's one. For me, it was a crisis, career crisis moment. But I will say that we don't really have to wait for a crisis to really happen, number one. Number two, one doesn't have to beat themselves as to say, yeah, so many years have gone by, I have lived a life without purpose, oh, my life is doomed. Not necessary. Maybe you find your life purpose after your retirement, maybe. You don't know. I mean, the question is, are you open? Question is, are you open to be uncomfortable, to challenge yourself, to recognize that, hey, you know what, I am uncomfortable where I am, and I need to do something to really, really make a difference. And I must say, I must use this very simple example to say, how can parents or all of us, kind of, because we don't have to be in that crisis moment. That's a fallacy that we have to go through a crisis to really experience, a life mission, or even to ask what's our purpose. In all humility, I must say, when my son was growing up, in his school days, he, at some point in time, he completely went against me and my wife are engineers. So logically, we expected as parents that my son will also, become an engineer, because that's the only thing that I knew, or we knew as parents. And in a very early stage, he said that, sorry, no interest in mathematics and science, but he definitely showed a lot of interest in language. He showed a lot of interest in history and humanities and all that kind of thing. So at some point in time, he said, "Look, I want to move into the space of psychology and in all of that." Not that we understood it much. So while it was very difficult for us to accept, I remember constantly reminding him, "What's your life purpose?" And to really, really challenge him to think through, saying, is this what you really want? To the extent, I remember in class 10, I really challenged him to say that, okay, if you have to really study psychology, where should you go? I mean, not that again we knew anything. So we said, let's explore. And so somewhere we came across that St. Xavier's in Mumbai, we were living in Mumbai at that time, is one of the best colleges. And so we then looked at saying that you need to have 90% and above to even get admission. And so then, without really pushing too hard to really say that, hey, you buck up and do something, I remember having conversations about saying, what's your vision? Do you visualize yourself studying in that college? Do you visualize if you have to really move in that space, maybe going into some other colleges will not give you that background. So what I really wanted to share is, without putting too much pressure to say 90% Lana, you have to get 90% and above, but to constantly remind saying, what do you really want to do? Are you clear about it? Are you sure this is what you want to do? And then to say, if this is what you want to do, where should you be? So, reminding more of those has really helped him as a child fulfill what he's doing. So, and that's where I was sensing that, and even as a coach, as an executive coach, that is all what we do with people. Always with people, we always ask them in any dilemma that they are in, what do you want to really accomplish? What do you visualize yourself doing? Sometimes it could be about career, sometimes it is about what they are trying to do, sometimes it's about the space that they are in. But the constant reminder of visualizing. Can you visualize yourself being in that college? Can you visualize yourself being in that space of leadership or whatever it is? So vision, having that clarity of vision and purpose is absolutely essential. And I have seen a lot of people struggle with that, because a lot of people don't pause to see that picture in their mind. So it's as good as saying, can you close your eyes and visualize being on that stage performing with the audience, clapping, applauding, the lights, the music, the aroma, all of that. Can you visualize that? Because for those people who have not been able to visualize, they struggle. But people who are able to visualize, they are able to do. So to answer your question, no, there is no specific time frame. Maybe some people find it on their journey. Some people have to go through the career crisis to be awakened like me. And some people can be kind of motivated right from childhood to visualize. Not to force them, I would say, but to help them visualize, what do you want to do? So
Yeah, and I think if we have our vision and we can visualize where we see ourselves, I think no pandemic can throw us off guard, because we know where we want to be. It's just that the way to reach our goal will change, but the goal or the vision will remain intact. So it is very important, as you said,
Look,
to
I just
have.
want to add on, and I'm sorry I'm kind of interrupting you, but I must say this, that along with your vision is to have your mission.
Absolutely.
The reason why I'm saying that is a couple of years back. So while over the last 10 years, I have been helping leaders or organizations, think through their vision and mission and all that. But I realized that I wasn't having a mission for myself. So 2-3 years back, I really kind of forced myself. I said, what is your mission? So while your vision is to be the world's finest facilitator and all, what's your mission? What's your life purpose? And that's when I coined this word. And I remind myself every moment by saying, look, you are here to inspire. And the reason why I say that, Shweta, is during the pandemic, literally the world came to a standstill because all classroom trainings stopped, right? But that's when I asked myself, what's your life mission? To inspire. What's the medium available? Virtual. Continue doing it. Right. Nobody was paying me money because organizations were going through that flux of what to do, uncertainty, should we do, should we not do. So for the first 2 months, there was no money. Right. But I was making myself available to anybody who could join my sessions to say, hey, it's free, don't worry. But that whole idea of making a difference in other people's life as a life mission has now kind of reciprocated itself by the kind of opportunities, I must say, extremely sense of gratitude and humility, that it's coming back to say, hey, continue doing this life mission. So here are more opportunities for you.
You have put it very beautifully that along with the vision, it's very important to have our life mission as well. Both go hand in hand. That's how it should be. And I think the parents, as you have rightly said, also play a very important role. Instead of just suppressing or forcing our dreams and vision on our children, it's very important to understand actually what they want and how we can support them.
Absolutely.
So if we can play that role consciously, I think a lot of the next generation would be better placed than what's happening around.
Absolutely.
So that
So,
brings me
since you,
to a very important next question, which is that till the things are fine, it's okay. People are, happy and are able to deal with the changes or the challenges. The moment it becomes little topsy turvy, you know, I have seen that people are emotionally not that strong to handle it.
yes.
We all often talk about IQ, but emotional intelligence, how does one develop that? Or because in crisis situation, in challenging situation, how we handle our emotions definitely plays a very important role. So how do we handle that?
And Shweta, I think that's a very, very important and relevant question. And there's a lot of misconception, around emotional intelligence, that people are born in, emotionally intelligent, or it's all genetic and so on and so forth. But what is very interesting is emotional intelligence is a learned skill, and anybody who doesn't matter what background. So of course, there could be a personality aspect to emotional intelligence, however, and the kind of background that people have grown up in. We watch our parents, we watch our teachers, friends. So all of that influence, and when you grow up, you kind of start showing a tendency of what you have seen and has worked for others well. So you think it might work well. So you kind of fall into that trap of adapting certain emotional approaches to certain things. But the good thing is, and science and research has actually shown that emotional intelligence is something that can be actually learned. And in fact, research has also proven, and within corporates also, that people who have a high level of IQ do very well. I mean, it's not that you don't need IQ, but a lot of research has actually shown that people with a very high level of IQ do very well initially as individual contributors. But when you work in corporates with people, what makes you successful in life in general is your emotional quotient. So statistical research has actually shown people with high levels of IQ but low levels of EQ doing well initially but failing in the long term, jumping from jobs to job, being fired from jobs, or really creating very stressful environments for people who work. So people leave them and go, even if they have become managers. Yeah. Whereas people with average levels of intelligence but very high levels of EQ have actually gone and done very well. And so, like I said, so for people, if you have to be really successful in life, one has to realize that it's not IQ, but it's your emotional quotient, your ability to not just be aware of your own feelings, your ability to really recognize how you're feeling, what are you thinking, and then to also use that awareness to be aware that others also feel the same way. That in a situation, my colleague, my sibling, my parents, my friends, or my colleagues could also be feeling that way, and hence how do I kind of relate to them. So that's something that they have to demonstrate. And I really want to kind of use a very quick and do apologies for using this biblical example, but a very dramatic example that stands in front of me as a role model example is a day prior to Jesus being crucified. So it's on a Friday. It's believed that it's on a Friday that he was crucified. So the previous night he's having his last supper with his disciples. Yeah. So there is this the story of the Last Supper. But something marvelous happens there. Just imagine, Jesus knew that he will be arrested that night, and he had that feeling that it's not headed in the right direction, that I will be, and he was prepared also, right, to be arrested. Now he's sitting with his disciples to eat his last supper, and he's seeing his disciples literally fighting over each other that who should sit next to Jesus and who is bigger than the other. So just imagine. So here is this master who has been teaching for the last 3 years these people that what the kingdom of heaven is, and all of that. And he knows that my life is going to end tomorrow. And here is my disciples who have not learned anything. My life is a waste. So in my mind, I'm thinking, he would have naturally scolded them, shouted at them, called them fools. What fools you are! But you know what he did? He actually, and in those Middle East, places, before you sit for food, you wash the legs. And typically it is the host who is supposed to wash the leg. But unfortunately, the story says that the host wasn't washing the legs. So Jesus takes a bowl of water. He ties his a towel around his waist, and he starts washing the legs of his disciples. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the emotional connect that he's doing there? Instead of shouting at them, instead of calling them fools and incompetent people, because the next and imagine the pain that he's going through. That next day I'm going to die. I mean, it's not even possible to imagine. But for me, that instance of pause by the master to recognize that, look, okay, they have not understood the message, so I have to show them.
Right.
Telling them no more, because there's no more time to tell. I have to show them. And he just shows them that if you have to be the best, you have to first be ready to serve. And so from an emotional intelligence perspective, like I told you, one, it is a learned skill. It is a choice that you make. You can be in the worst situation, but right now, right this moment, if you have that sense of recognition that what will take me ahead in life is to be emotional intelligent, I can decide to take that pause. I can decide to connect with my own, and there are ways, right? So yoga, meditation, all of that. So I can choose my method to start becoming more, aware of myself, and also to become sensitive to the others and behave in a manner which is useful in that situation. So it's a choice that we can all learn. And today is a great day for anybody who believes that, life has been bad and emotionally challenging. Today is a great day to start in that direction. That's what I would say.
Right. You said a very interesting thing that our emotions are basically what we see happening around us as we grow up. It's a lot of things which we imbibe. We see our parents, our siblings, and people around us, and that becomes a part of us. But and we believe in that, in the mindset that we start saying that I am like this only, right? We be related to our identity.
Absolutely.
And then comes a very important thing that you build in that awareness that you are separate from it, and that's how you can bring in the change as well. But sadly, I would say that how does one bring in that awareness, because most of the people does not even recognize that it is something which you have learned from people around you, so it is something which can be unlearned as well, right? So how does one bring that awareness, because bringing in that awareness is very crucial. Change will happen only after that.
Yes. So Shweta, so I still go back to the whole idea of having a life purpose and that vision for yourself. So whether I look at it from my perspective of having that clarity of vision, okay, this is what I need to do. So while I may not have been coming from a family of entrepreneurs, that I never ever imagined being an entrepreneur. I don't even know how to be an entrepreneur myself, and to plunge into something that I have not done, but just because I love doing what I do, So in my mind, I'm thinking that that sense of purpose and that clarity to say that this is what I really want to do. And I must say, on a lighter vein, that when I plunged in, of course, I had, amazing support system. My wife has been extremely supportive. My mother, so my child, none of them really challenged me saying, Papa, there is not much money in the house because you stopped working. And maybe your new job isn't getting you much money. Where is it? I mean, so what happened to the luxurious lifestyle that we were leading? So fortunately for me, none of this was being challenged. But what I really wanted to bring in is to say that I asked my mom, um, assuming I fail in what I do, would you allow me to come and be a farmer in your farm? See, the mindset to say that it's fine, I will do anything, I will do to survive, because we are meant to survive, right? So developing that attitude saying that today, this is not the end of the world. A lot of people are losing jobs right now because of the pandemic. I can see them panicking because somewhere they feel that if I have been an accountant, if I have been a sales guy, if I have been an HR professional, this is the end of my life. There's nothing else that I can do. But I keep reminding people that no. Being in sales is not who you are. Being an accountant is not who you are. You have certain talents, you have certain qualities. Do you recognize that? To me, although I use that story of Jesus being emotionally intelligent, in my mind, I'm thinking he was very clear about his purpose. He knew that I have to, allow myself to come to this end. Only then people will realize. So having that mindset of clarity, that what is it that I really want to do? So if that is the vision, and so Shweta, so I will put it this way, that if I'm very clear about what I really want to accomplish, I will challenge myself to say, do I have what I need to do today? Because I really see that as where I want to go. So I will do everything that is possible to build me up. And that is exactly what is expected of you, nothing else. You may not have the talents right now. You may not have the qualification to do that right now. But if you are very clear about your life purpose, if you're very clear about what you want to accomplish, you can at least ask yourself, what do I need to get moving? True. So whether it is becoming an executive coach certification program, or whether it is doing NLP master practitioner as a program, or whether it is doing some other certifications, if I realize that I need that, or if it is to say that if I have never done virtual trainings in my lifetime, but hey, let me learn it, because that is the future. So I don't have to beat myself up to say that, oh, I never did that in the past, I don't know how to do it, and here I am, a loser. No. Can you recognize, and that's all about the attitude. The attitude is this the end of the world because I don't know what to do? Or to say, I have a very clear purpose and I'm very passionate about it. Let me figure out what should I do. Right. And there are umpteen cases of success stories around the world, and I will say there is not one success story where the person actually felt at their lowest. But at that moment of lowest, they chose to act. They chose to act and take that first step forward, because movement creates momentum. Right. When you take that first baby step, you will learn something about it. Then you take 2 more baby steps, you learn something more about it. And that's the only way that you can. So just to answer your question, Shweta, is having that clarity of purpose will help you assess that there is more to life than the current failure or the current situation. And everybody can change. Everybody can accomplish what they want.
You very rightly say that once we have that vision, I think our actions and values automatically aligns to it. Yes. So everything starts falling in place. Very rightly said. This brings me to my next question, and it is something which I can relate to very well because I have struggled with it all my life. That is the sales question, and you being into that field at a certain point of time. Um, And especially during this challenge as well, this whole pandemic and situations getting changed suddenly, a lot of people say and also believe in that, I'm not a salesperson, I can't sell whether it's my goods or services. They are not meant for that, but to make yourself seen, to make yourself reach to people. Ultimately you have to be out there and sell yourself, and especially for people like us, who are into service. We are our own brands, right? So how does one deal with that? And now currently I feel that this is something each one of us, it's one talent I think that everyone should have, whether you are selling a good or a service. So how does one deal with that?
Again, thank you for asking that. I will say, despite my years of experience in sales, I still don't call myself a salesperson, and I still get my shivers when I have to pick up the phone and speak to someone. So having said all of that, I will say that right from childhood, all of us have been sales professionals. Every time that you communicated something to convince somebody else to buy your idea,
Right.
to appreciate your point of view, and even in corporate world, while you may not be a sales professional, in the roles that you play, whether you are a frontline, whether you are a manager, whether you are a leader, you are constantly positioning value of an idea, and to show people how aligning themselves to that idea is going to help them move forward. In my opinion, sales is just that. The only difference is, as an outcome of that transaction, the other person will pay you money for your services, and you will then call that as a successful sale. But in a typical normal life, every single person is doing all the steps that a sales professional does. I'll give you an example. Uh, Assuming you are an employee, you're a leader, you're not a sales professional, you're in any other profession, and you have to position an idea to someone. You will make some preparation, think through the facts and figures, think through the idea, think through what all it can do, try and assess who is the person I'm talking to, what kind of a personality is this person, or what is the audience that I'm going to talk to. You do something called pre-call intelligence. You ask yourself what is good about this idea, what is bad about this idea. You ask yourself, hey, can I communicate well, what is my strength here, what are some of my challenges, and you go and work around it. You also push yourself to say, what is so unique about this idea, why should people buy my idea. You do that anyways, and before you walk into and meet up this person or the audience, you actually say, okay, in this meeting I want to accomplish this. That is a call objective in a sales program. And then to, while you're in conversation with the other person, to one, share your thought, and to then ask more questions to uncover what parts of this idea the other person couldn't connect to, is what we call discover the needs of the customer. All right, and then having understood the needs of the other person and the solution that you have to offer, you actually repackage it or reposition it in a manner that the other person appreciates. That is called positioning in sales. And lastly, you say, okay, leader, manager, audience, are you ready to go with me? They will say, no, we don't agree. That's sales objections. So, and then you do what you have to do to overcome. So if you ask me honestly, every person, whether you call themselves a sales professional, is doing a sales job day in and day out. All right. So if you really look at it, there's nothing to fear. But then I also realize there are these two categories of people, particularly when you talk about entrepreneurs. I mean, I will put it this way: people who have chosen to be freelancers or people who have chosen to be entrepreneurs. There is a difference between these two, freelancers and entrepreneurs. And I'm just categorizing this for lack of time. A freelancer is dependent on somebody to give them business.
Right.
not the client, not the actual client. I mean, I'm talking about training in particular, or this space of learning and development. And this is how I have interpreted it. I may be wrong. Is that there are freelancers who align themselves with training companies to say that whatever you give, I will do. All right. And I'm completely scared to go direct to customers because I don't know how to do. You bring business and I'm comfortable. Whether it is more, less, whatever it is, I am comfortable. And there is this other category of people who are entrepreneurs, even for me. And one quality that an entrepreneur brings different from the freelancer is entrepreneur believes that if you don't do it, you don't eat that day.
Right.
So I keep reminding myself that if I don't make an attempt, whether it is to publish via social media, whether it is to send emails out to my prospective customers, or maybe pick up that phone and call someone, I realize that I cannot have bread on my table that day. And so I will, despite my fear, I told you in the beginning that despite my years of experience as a sales professional, I still shiver. I still, have my nightmares to say, should I call this person? But I tell myself that if I don't do that, I don't eat. And I think that's the difference which actually comes in, as you rightly said, the fear of not doing the sales and all of that is primarily coming from the fact that am I comfortable depending on somebody else to feed me, or am I having an entrepreneurial mindset? I can be a freelancer, but I have an entrepreneurial mindset to say, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I don't, eat that night. I won't have food on my table. And that's the only mindset difference that an entrepreneur does versus a freelancer, right? So how can you develop sales? There is no one strategy to develop sales. For sales, you need to have customers, and customers need to be connected with. You need to find your way to find out where your customers are. In the pre-pandemic scenario, you could walk into a customer's place and have face-to-face meetings. Now you cannot afford to do that. So now you have all the means of emails or telephone calls or through LinkedIn or through social media to catch their eyeball. But if you don't do that, not, I mean, sales won't come. So you have to do your part. You have to do your part. I don't know if that answers your question,
It
Shweta.
absolutely does. And when you were talking about this, and when you said that right from the childhood, everyone is a salesperson and everyone is selling ideas, it just reminded me of so many situations of my children. You know, I was just correlating that whether it's buying an ice cream for them or whether it's taking an extra playtime, how beautifully they position their ideas, and they handle all the objections from me, and then they get the work done. And I was actually correlating, and I was like, yes, right from the childhood, that's how it is.
We are
They
born salespeople, all of us.
Right, absolutely. So you very rightly said. But again, the sad part is, I think while we grow up, we just start believing or start telling ourselves that this is something I am not capable of doing, or I cannot do it. So we just start suppressing our talents, or things which we are actually capable of doing. This brings to another very important aspect, and I think that's the most important one, and it's our mindset, because we are ultimately what we think, right? Because this is what defines us, what actions we take, what we speak, how we behave with people, ultimately boils down to one thing: how we think, our mindset. How does one recognize that?
So, so how it's very very interesting to think about it. Is to say one, so again the mindset is, in my opinion, a lot of conditioning. Maybe in the past, when I have my failures, if I have been reprimanded, beaten up, called a failure constantly, over a period of time, then I get into that mindset of being a failure. But every time that I have been a failure, when somebody has told me that, hey, that's okay, you're not the only one who has ever failed, and all you need to do is get up and dust your backside and get going. That creates that mindset saying, all right, failure has happened, but it's okay to move forward. And since you spoke about children as well, and mindset, I'm just thinking that's how we grew up, honestly. Shweta, when we were born, we were not standing and walking. We, at some point in time, we started turning over. At some point in time, we started, crawling on our fours. And at some time, we started with shaky legs, standing up and falling and hurting ourselves. Just imagine if the child who hurt himself or herself while standing up as a child resigned themselves to the fact that, oh, I'm getting hurt, and refused to stand up again. Imagine. And trust me, I mean, who taught the child to say it's okay? Who taught the child to shake their bum and stand up again? So, which means we are we are made and created to fall, rise up, dust our backside, and try again. That's how we are created. But somewhere, as that innocence dies, somewhere where we have to possibly match up to what others' expectations are, somewhere where we have to match up to others' expectations of what we should be. That is where we completely lose who we are. And I will say, because it is something that we created for ourselves, while we can't control why my parents spoke the way they said, or why my teachers did what they did, why they weren't they so encouraging, while I can't do all of that, the realization that, look, I control my actions. So maybe I had a very poor childhood. Maybe I had a bad, background experience. Maybe I have become a complete failure today. But do I recognize that I have a purpose? Do I recognize that I have a choice? Do I recognize that I control the way I think and feel? And that any mindset that I have had in the past can be changed. Question is, are you willing? Question is you what you want to do, or is your purpose so strong that it doesn't allow you to sleep, to say that do something? And that, I will say, is the only way. If you have to really change your mindset, to really ask yourself, my creator, if you believe in, if you're a spiritual person, or even if you're not a spiritual person, to look around nature and say, when I fell 1,000 times as a kid, I never bothered. I just got up and started walking again. When I drove my first bicycle and I fell and I fractured my leg, I never bothered to resign myself and say no more cycling. No, no, no. I went back. I mean, not that I broke my leg. And I'm just saying, I'm sure somebody did. But they just went back and cycled again. So when you ask yourself, that is to say, you are created to move forward. The mindset is unfortunate that you have had a bad background. But do I realize that I control what I can do? I can take action. I can take action to move forward. The question is, are you willing to take action? Or are you so comfortable being a failure? Are you with that sense of purpose that you want to accomplish? Are you so excited to get to the finishing post? Or are you very happy being this beating yourself up failure? Choose. So,
You know, it's actually, if we have that life purpose, that sense of purpose, failure will just be an event for us. It will always be a learning experience, something which would act as a motivating factor instead of something which pulls us back. So I think today a lot of people, all those who are watching will definitely have this one thing to go back and think and ponder, that what is my life purpose for sure. And definitely, if we are clear on that, things start falling in place, be it our actions, be it the way we think, be it the way we look at events. And as it's often said, once you have to be the change you want to see in the world around you. So if that change starts coming into us, I don't think we would really ever want to bring in that change into the other people around us. So
And then
definitely having that purpose, that vision for ourselves is extremely, extremely important.
And Shweta, I will just want to add on is to say, having a vision of a life purpose is not enough. You have to move. You have to take that first step. If so, I will actually sum it up by saying, do what you have to do, because the consequences are not in your hands. What will come out, whether you will indeed find your life purpose, whether you will indeed reach in this lifetime, that is not in your control. But your creator expects you to act.
Right.
Can you act? Can you recognize that I have a responsibility to take action, and I should just take action and not worry about the consequences of it? I'm expected to take action. Can I take action? So I really want to sum it up by saying, have a life purpose, but also believe that you control taking action. So if you want a change, as you said, be the change you want to see around you. If you don't act and expect others to just change, nothing will happen. You have to take action. So take action today. Today is a great day to take
Great.
action.
I think you have beautifully summed it up, that yes, no matter how small or big your step is, the point is you have to make the beginning. You have to start somewhere. Otherwise, as you said right at the beginning, all we will do is we'll just look back and regret on our deathbed that we could have done so many things, but we ended up doing nothing at all. So, yes, I think you have been a truly a totally inspiration for us today, right from your story and how different aspects of your life have transformed you into what you are today. It's been a great, great learning for each one of us, because we see a lot of people on the screens or we read about a lot of people, but when we actually interact with someone who has had that kind of a journey, it's something which becomes much more relatable, much more real, and definitely much more inspiring.
Thank you, Shweta.
So,
Really appreciate it.
a big thank you for being with us today, for giving us a glimpse and an insight into your life, your thinking, your perspectives, and truly, truly inspiring us. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much, Shweta. Really feel humbled to be in this space. I know this is being live telecast via LinkedIn, and then a lot of people who are watching this. I'm sure they will be able to relate to their own stories in their life. We have a purpose, and this is something that I remind myself on a closing note, that my creator created me with a sense of purpose and with talents to achieve that purpose. Now, the question is, it's not written on a piece of paper and handed it around when we were born. The creator expects me to find that passion, whatever that is. And I know that if you step back and pause and ask yourself what really creates excitement for you in your life, that if you have done this, you feel accomplished. That is the life purpose. And having accomplished that, can I recognize that I have the talents required to achieve that? I may not become a billionaire. I will not become a Steve Jobs. I will not become an Arnold Schwarzenegger. I will not become any of those. I will not become a Mahatma Gandhi. But I am meant to be Hardy Alexander. And I am expected to act in the manner which will make me the best Hardy Alexander there is. And that should be the pursuit every day, every day. Are you inching closer to being what your creator wanted you to accomplish, and to take action? So that's what I will say on a closing note.
I think that's a beautiful closing note, and we'll all definitely go back and think today. And as you said, take the action. That's the most important thing. So, once again, gratitude and thank you for being with us on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shweta. Really, really appreciate it. God bless and do very well.
Thank you.